there, and welcome to the Transparently Jordan podcast, where I'll be talking with a new guest each week, and we'll be covering topics in health, fitness, lifestyle, and so much more. So stick around and let's get into today's episode.
It just clicked in my mind, like right then and there, like, oh shit, I'm gonna die and he's going to suffer from that because that's it.
What is going on, everyone, and welcome to another day and another week. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I am in such a bad mood right now. I know the last time that I recorded the intro for last week, I was in a bad mood as well. So hopefully this isn't a pattern from now on. But today, I literally 45 minutes ago just got home from spending 4.5 hours in the COVID-19 testing lineup. Basically, what happened was earlier today, we got an email stating that all placement activities, so all health science students at my uni that I'm going to, are essentially placement is done, and we were all basically sent home because of the most recent COVID outbreak that occurred 2 weeks ago. So I was in placement for the last 2 weeks, but they just decided this week to cancel placement. And they basically told us that we need to essentially go get tested ASAP. And then we weren't allowed to resume placement again until we got those results. So it was a little bit delayed why they got tested. I think it was because some stupid person in South Australia broke his quarantine. So some person tested positive, he was in quarantine, but then he broke his quarantine and went to Kmart and a few other shops. And because of that, I guess the hospital or the South Australian health system is, I don't know, they're basically students are high risk population, so we need to go home, and all placement is canceled for the end of the week or for the rest of the week, which sucks because today was actually first day of my last week of placement. So I just need to get through one more week, and then I would have been on Christmas holidays till mid-January. But now I have no idea what's going to go on. They're probably going to, as soon as we can get back into placement, they're probably just going to start it up again. And then whatever time that I missed because of me getting tested will just get added on. So essentially, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to have to go back next week, which, I mean, I really, really like placement, so it's not the end of the world, but at the same time, it would have been nice to have just be done, and just start my Christmas break, which is much deserved because I have not gotten one break all year because of COVID. They've kind of just condensed everything and made it a year round. So that is my mood right now. It has been a long, long freaking day. But my week, let's see, the wrap up of the week, I've done absolutely nothing because I've been on placement, so done absolutely nothing. But last Friday, or maybe it was even Thursday, I think it was last Friday, my favorite girl ever released her highly anticipated album, Plastic Hearts, Miss Queen Miley Cyrus. Holy shit, you guys. I'm not gonna lie to you. I have listened to every single track on that album on repeat the last 3 days. And that's no exaggeration. In the kitchen, when I'm cooking, in the gym, when I'm going for a run, on my way to work, on my way home to work, I have literally listened to every single track on repeat. There is not one bad track on that new album, which is hard to say for a lot of albums. I mean, a lot of Miley's older albums or other albums in the past, there have been tracks that I've never listened to after that first listen. Whereas this album, every single freaking track is just so amazing. If you guys can't tell, I'm excited. I am so freaking excited about this album. It is so good. So good. And I've been waiting so long for it. So, yeah, that was my, I guess, past 3 days. Other than that, I've just been working, been watching a lot of Christmas movies actually. I've been watching a lot of Christmas movies on Netflix and on Amazon Prime. Nothing nothing new, to be honest. I mean, I know Netflix is coming out with a lot of kind of like those Hallmarky type movies, which I'm not all that interested in, to be honest. I kind of like the classics, like Christmas with the Cranks. I watch every year. I of course watch Elf every year. Deck the Halls, Fred Claus, the Santa Claus movies. One, two, and three, I watch every year. And I've made it through pretty much every single one of those movies that I just mentioned, except for the Santa Claus movies. I'm pretty sure they got moved to Disney Plus, which I don't have, so I'm gonna have to figure out how to watch those. But yeah, I've just been watching a lot of Christmas movies, and yeah, I'm excited. I'm so excited about Christmas. I hope Christmas goes as planned. I hope this frickin' fucker that broke quarantine and ruined it for the rest of us does not ruin Christmas, because I am having a Christmas barbecue. It is going to be my very first Australian Christmas, and everybody is coming to my house for a barbecue. So it better happen. It better freaking happen. But enough of me babbling away, because that is really all I have to say for the week. Nothing really else exciting has happened. My life is pretty uneventful right now. But this episode is another great episode to this planet. Oh my god. Sorry. A freaking rabbit just ran right in front of my house. And it was a huge rabbit. Oh. Okay. Back into today's episode. I'm going to actually keep that in, and I'm not cutting that. Today's episode, I am talking with Alex Buck. Now, Alex is based out of LA. He is an Ironman athlete. He is sober. He has been sober for many years now. He'll definitely speak to that in the episode, because I kind of forgot how many years, but he's battled with alcoholism in the past. He has battled with going vegan versus not going vegan. He's essentially talks about how he first was vegan slash vegetarian, then he started eating meat again, and then he went back to vegan. So he shares his entire journey, what led him to being vegan, what led him to helping the animals, what led him to activism, and all of these amazing things. This episode is actually so open and honest. He opens up completely to a complete stranger. Like, we just met today, right before the episode. So it's a good episode. It's a very good episode. And he, again, was just so open with everything, with his past and his present. So I thank Alex for being on the podcast, and I hope you all enjoy it. Alrighty. Hello, everyone, and welcome, Alex, to the podcast. How are you doing today, Alex?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm not bad. Yeah, it's a nice day here, so I think it's going to be good. And I know we were just saying that it's 10 a.m. here, so my day is just getting started. How's your day
Right
been?
on. Good, good. It's been pretty good weather. It's not too cold, but it's nice and sunny.
Yeah.
It's been an off day for me, so I've just been relaxing. Took a nice walk with the pooch,
Mm.
just enjoying the scenery.
What?
We're like maybe half a week into some sort of winter here in LA.
Yeah. What kind what kind of dog do you have?
He's an American Bulldog.
Okay. All right. How long have you had him?
I have had him for about 4.5 years now.
Okay.
His name is Bodie.
Bodie. All righty. Now, Alex, do you mind maybe telling the listeners a little bit about yourself, just to get started?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so I am 29 years old. I was born here in LA. I was born in the Valley, the San Fernando Valley, and then I spent the vast majority of my upbringing in Santa Clarita, just north of the Valley. And I grew up two older brothers. Went to public school. I actually acted the vast majority of my childhood. That was a huge part of my life, my upbringing. I did my first job when I was 10 months old. I was in an aspirin commercial as the baby, and then I acted consistently until I was about 18, and that's when I started really getting into playing music and also drinking and partying and stuff. And so I walked away from the industry and my agencies and went on to definitely walk a different path for quite some time from there.
Right. Alrighty. And how long have you now been vegan?
So I actually, in high school, playing music, playing in like hardcore bands and just being in the local rock scene and stuff like that. I had a lot of friends who were vegan, vegetarian, and I always had a very, very strong draw to animals and animal welfare. And at can't remember what year it was, but I think I was at the Warped Tour and I went up to a PETA tent and saw like a bunch of info on factory farming. And so I went vegetarian when I was 16. And then I went in and out of like vegetarian, vegan, and then like pescatarian. And that went on for years until I was like 20. I started eating like meat and just not really given a whole lot of a heck about my wellness or anyone else's in general for quite a few years. And then it wasn't until I got my dog Bodhi, who I introduced a few moments ago, when he fell into my lap as a 6-week-old puppy. It was only a few months of having him that one night I was sitting up and he was sitting in my lap trying to find something to watch on Netflix, and I came across Okja and I watched that, and just all my old values of compassion and walking the walk as opposed to just saying I feel a certain way and doing something else kind of all came flooding back to me in a moment. And I had that was one of my first real moments of clarity on my general path to wellness that hit me. And it was having Bodhi and seeing that film that night that I really made a shift right then and there to start getting animal products out of my life. And a few months later, I would come to make friends with a really strong vegan activist and just kind of kick the whole thing back off. And so it's been about 4 years now since I made the shift back into completely abstaining from participating in animal exploitation of any form.
Okay, cool. Now, I'm interested, if you're open to it, chatting a little bit before, I guess, you started vegan, because I know you were mentioning that you've been vegetarian, vegan before this,
Mm-hmm.
before you made
Yeah.
the full switch in the past, and then you started eating meat again and whatnot. So I'm just wondering, if you mind getting into a little bit about your past and about what your reasoning for making the switch to vegan / like vegetarian back then, and then kind of making
Mm-hmm.
the switch to being kind of a meat eater.
Yeah.
How did that kind of go about?
Well, so alongside all of that, I was also battling heavily with alcoholism, which plays a big part in just my overall decision making for
Right.
for a good decade there, from about 17 to 27. And so my initial interests in not harming animals just came from the way I've always felt since I was a child. I mean, I grew up with dogs. My childhood heroes were Ace Ventura and Steve Irwin. I was obsessed with Steve Irwin, and I wanted to grow up to study like zoology and paleontology, just like animals and dinosaurs and all creatures of the known universe. Always, I just had an immense empathy towards others, and I always felt that. So like around 16, I had known a few people that were vegetarian, and I was really starting to make my own life decisions, that were, you know, a little more thought through than just,
Right.
your average, adolescence of what do I want to do today? Go like, is it skateboarding or basketball?
Yeah.
Kind of what's on the agenda. So, it was always there. It was always there. I have this really strong memory of, I don't remember how old I was, but it's like crazy young, maybe like 4 or 5, of being at like an IHOP, and I got
Mm.
pancakes and they made it into like a face. And I wouldn't eat it, because it had a face. And I
Yeah.
just remember, like bawling my eyes out because my dad was cutting up the pancakes and, just like saying like, you're killing him. And, so like that's just always been in there,
Yeah.
and like the vast majority of us, we're compassionate, and it's within us all to not want to cause direct harm to others, but luckily, thanks to punk rock and that community and stuff, when I was a teenager, I stumbled across the resources of how to walk that line,
Mm.
as a person, as a consumer, and like, oh no, like that lunch meat you got, this is them suffering because of that kind of a thing. And so
Right.
when I was able to visually make that connection, as getting older and becoming a consumer, I was like, oh well, screw that. I'm not
Yeah.
doing those things.
And was this all in your teenage years still?
Yeah, for
Wow.
sure. Yeah,
Okay.
I was like a sophomore in high school.
Yeah. And that's super interesting because most people that age don't even think about all of that, right? You're
Yeah, yeah,
like you're saying before, you're worried about school and parties and skateboarding and this and that.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I find
exactly.
that super interesting. Was it essentially what do you think made you kind of have that mindset at that young of an age?
Well, I mean, like I said, it was just always kind of there, and
Yeah.
and I had dogs, and
Mm.
just had incredibly close relationships with my
Right.
dogs, and then also just like screaming in hardcore bands and stuff like that. I was a very vocal person, and I saw it as a bit of a, an act of rebellion. Like, oh, I'm going
Right.
to be, I'm going to go vegetarian. Like, no, I don't eat meat. I don't do that. Like, I abstain from that stuff. It's definitely, it's a very like punk rock thing to be like, uh, I feel this way, and I'm gonna stand up for it, and
Okay.
and take a stance on this,
Right.
like oppression. Like I'm not gonna fall in line because everyone else does it. Like
Right.
I know it's wrong, therefore I won't. And so yeah, it played a like my friends influencing it, was a real saving grace,
Hmm.
because I like, I was able to discover the resources of like, and back then, I mean, there was only a few products that were kind of banging on the shelves that you could like get in a store, but my buddy was like, oh, Morning Star has like chicken
Yeah.
patties, and there was like
Yeah.
still garden burgers, like that
Yeah.
was a thing. And then like, yeah, outside of Morning Star, I can't even, think of, oh,
Think
and
of anything.
Boca was an
Right.
OG. Yeah, so like I knew about those things, and they had it at my. I lived next to like a Stater Brothers that carried them,
Yeah.
and so, and it's just, I mean, I also like, I thought it was cool,
Hmm. Right.
and I think personally, regardless of whatever makes you stop harming others, like they don't care.
Right.
Just they're just stoked you're, like, so if you want to be punk rock and rebel and go vegan in high school, like do it.
Right.
Like don't
Hmm.
think twice, like it's whether it's you don't even fully understand it yet. The animals in the earth will thank you for it regardless of your reasoning,
Right. Right. Okay. So then
uh,
going to the point where you decided to start eating meat again, how did that go about?
well, that was I remember the day too.
Okay.
So my buddy and myself, right out of high school, myself and 3 of my friends got a house in Lake Balboa. It's like right next to Van Nuys in the Valley here in LA. And I think we like suckered our buddy's dad into like co-signing on the lease and got us this like sweet house with a yard and all this stuff. We were so young and irresponsible. But we move into this house, and on like the same day, so like all of us were vegetarian when we moved in. And immediately, I mean, I'm drinking like daily. So, and I had got a job in the Carpenters Union, and was like, hanging drywall and doing steel stud framing on like commercial structures. So I was super young, but like getting really nice paychecks, like right out of high school, doing this, construction stuff in the union. And, so I was just getting off and buying 18 packs and bottles of this or whatever. I was drinking a lot of Four Loko had just come out before it got like recalled. And so we were drinking those and Mad Dogs and stuff like that. And so we were getting really reckless, like really quickly. And it was the same day my buddy Jordan and I, who are still super tight, we still play music together. We were like, let's go get burritos. And we walked to this like little corner kind of bodega setup thing. And we both got like carne asada burritos. And that was we just started eating meat again together. And it was like, I think there was like some, protein bullshit probably going on there, we got to eat meat. Like, I don't know, just going through the phases of what, from teenage to, okay, now I'm 19, going to be like 20. And you go through so many hills and valleys as a developing human trying to discover yourself. And if you couple that with the radical emotional roller coaster of being an addict or alcoholic, your decision-making is all over the place. So that was, there wasn't really any major shift. Like, it's not like I got into bodybuilding and was like, well, I got to get my macros up. Like, it wasn't a really thought through thing in general. I was just being crazy reckless. Like, I was, like I said, drinking every day, like crushing up pills and snorting them and stuff, and just doing wild things that were detrimental to my wellness and people around me.
And you were under 20, at an age where you're still learning it all, right?
I hadn't had much figured out, to say the least. But the crazy thing about that though is I would go on to periodically live with some of those dudes again, and I mean, we're all still very tight. But Jordan and I especially had always talked, like, over the years that we were kind of like off the wagon with being vegan. We always brought it up. Like, it would be like, oh man, we got to get off the shit. Like, get back to the truth, stop eating that trash. And so it was like always kind of there, but it really wasn't until Bodhi came into the picture where I started flipping my whole perspective on my decisions across the board.
Right. And was it easy when you made that switch again to go back to vegan? Was it easy because you already kind of had the past of knowing and having kind of a little bit of knowledge, right?
Yeah, for sure. So I definitely had that benefit, but it's also just it's just not hard. I mean, in my opinion, it's just not that hard. I've never really been someone who has an insane amount of emotional investment in my food anyway. Like, I'll eat like cold meals that aren't heated back up or whatever. Like, I'm super low maintenance as it is. Like, I eat the same things almost all the time. I have a collection of a few, and most of us, like, when we really step back and look at our dietary habits, we have a revolving cycle of only like a few things that we tend to enjoy on the regular. But so I did have that like reinforcement of having, like tread those waters before, and knew like, oh, I wasn't going to die. I wasn't going to drop dead of a protein deficiency because I had like done it. And, but also, I mean, it's like, what's my objective? I'm going to the store to get food. So as long as I just do that, it's like, it's not a loss in my, And then, I mean, like with things like Boca Burgers and Morningstar, and now we've got all these brands like Gardein and Beyond and Impossible. And there's just so many, and Dia, like so many mainstream plant-based companies that are like non-GMO, certified organic and stuff. But they're in like every store, I mean, you can go into Target and get Beyond Burgers and like GT's kombucha and stuff. So there's a lot of like, a lot more of those healthier choices just everywhere now. You can go to Taco Bell and get a bean burrito with no cheese and like just smash that.
And in California, LA specifically, because I'm from Vancouver, Canada, and like we're super. It's like Vancouver is a main city in Canada. It's one of the two bigger cities, so super easy. Right now I'm living in Adelaide, South Australia, which is a little bit smaller, and it's still so easy for me to eat vegan out here. And I know anytime that I go to LA, I'm always amazed in just the abundance of things that you can get anywhere and everywhere. So it's not hard at all.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. Like, actually, I mean, you can eat, like the other night we just released some new music with my project Bad Jesus, and we were like, let's have like a little pizza party kind of celebration. It was only like 3 of us, because the COVID and stuff. We're like next door neighbors, so we've been together the whole time. But we were able to just hop on Postmates and like order 2 really legit like vegan pizzas, and it was at our door in like 35 minutes. And there's a spot called Cruiser, like right up the street. And then like, there's countless spots for whatever type of eating you're into, whether you like Latin foods or, Middle Eastern cuisines or this or that or whatever, you can get it. Usually not only just by like altering, but there's so many fully plant-based vegan spots here in LA that are of all like cultural cuisine types, which is just, I'm super grateful for that. But I also kind of just eat like oatmeal and like baked veggies every day. So
same here.
Like, like I'm a minimalist, 100%, and just like lazy too. So I do have all that gourmet eating in my backyard, but I don't really do it too much.
All right. So. Now, thank you for sharing all of that in your past. Now I'm interested maybe talking about the present and where you are now, and just kind of speaking to that.
Well, I mean, I'm definitely living a much different lifestyle now than I ever really have been before. So to kind of like cover the timeline so I get Bodhi, he comes into my life. I go vegetarian and start making these more like selfless decisions. And that was kind of the first push of like the snowball that would eventually turn into this like avalanche of wellness. But I get Bodhi, I go vegetarian. Later that year, I meet my friend Dylan from the UK, and she was like a hardcore activist and does work with like DXE and Anonymous for the Voiceless, and like she showed me like what vigils were and would show me videos of like James Aspey and Earthling Ed and all that stuff. And it had been a really long time since I had invested in that, kind of like mentally invested in that world. Like I knew about factory farming and stuff just from being younger and seeing videos on the internet, but I had kind of forgotten. And even though I had like gone vegetarian already, like I was just doing it off of my own, like, I just don't eat meat. It wasn't like, I wasn't following activists on Instagram and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But then I started to, because
Right.
she would show me like this, YouTube couple or something. And I'd be like, oh, they're cool. And, give them a follow. And so then I started like just getting more and more information.
Yeah.
And, I started to realize, like, for me and just the way I feel about myself, maybe I'm not doing enough. And
Right.
I'm somebody who is very comfortable voicing my opinion.
Mm.
And that comes from maybe like the performance aspect of growing up as a child actor, or, playing music and standing on stage and, screaming lyrics I wrote into a microphone,
Yeah.
or just in general kind of being a stubborn human,
Right.
and like
Yeah.
standing my ground by nature, like
Yeah.
arguing with my family my whole life.
Yeah.
So whatever the reasoning behind it, I was just like, oh, well, I feel courageous enough, or like I feel comfortable enough voicing my opinion and standing up for these animals that cannot, put sound into our structured language to
Mm-hmm.
say like, hey, you're hurting me, we're afraid of you.
Yeah.
And just hearing like them, moan in agony is not enough, I guess. But so I realized like, okay, well, if I can, then I should,
Yeah.
and so I started feeling that kind of rising in my head a lot about the way I was carrying myself through these days. And so now, to kind of throw in what really lit the flame of it all for
Yeah.
me, was right at the end of that same year. So like earlier that spring, maybe February, March or something, was when I went vegetarian and started making those choices. Then I meet my friend and now I'm like, okay, no, I'm vegan for sure. Like no eggs, no dairy, like no leather. And started looking at like my my toothpastes and my shampoos and all that stuff,
Yeah.
like, cause it's tested on animals. Okay, cool. No, I'll buy this one.
Mm-hmm.
And just really, really like becoming invested in changing my habits and looking at like what in my life, can I change that's going to like help my ripple effect become more positive, for the, beings outside of myself. And now simultaneously alongside all of this, I'm still drinking, and I'm drinking heavily. I'm blacking out. I'm throwing up on myself in my sleep. Cause I was also simultaneously really bottoming out emotionally, which is kind of a trip, because it was like, my mind was like split in two directions. I was making all these, choices and doing all these things, but also still like wildly depressed and not properly dealing with choices I had made over the course of, years of alcoholism, going through a really intense breakup.
Right.
And then like searching for something to replace it with, like toxic behaviors and, toxic people find toxic people, and just like, so really short-term radical, like failed relationships as I'm like trying to fill a void and stuff like that. And, eventually it was the end of that year, where I went on a really, really hardcore bender for a handful of days. And when I came out of it, I woke up and I'm laying on the floor of my like, unfurnished apartment. I've got nothing in there. Like I was laying on a pile of blankets for a while. And I'm in there with Bodhi, and, I'm so sick from days and days and days of drinking, that I'm spitting up blood. I can't get up. Like I got, black circles under my eyes, and he's got no dog food. He needs to go out for a walk. And I'm like, couldn't even handle that, cause he's a big boy, and it's a whole process walking him, but it just clicked in my mind, like right then and there, like, oh shit, I'm going to die, and he's going to suffer from that, because I like, that's it. He's at the mercy of the animal control that shows up to the apartment of an alcoholic suicide or whatever. And, maybe he lashes out at them, and he's a bully breed. So they take him to an aggressive shelter and he gets put down. And so like all of that, all the outcome of me losing control, with my drinking and how it was going to affect him, like hit me in an instant. The same way it did that night when I watched Okja and I was like, oh, I'm fucking up.
Yeah.
It was the same, you know, in the sobriety community, it's your moment of clarity. And that was it. And I told myself right then and there, if I can survive this day, and get through these withdrawals and all that, I'm never doing anything to harm myself or put his life in jeopardy again.
Right.
And so that was a huge moment for me, and a shift in my overall life forever, you know, up until this point.
Yeah.
And so that really gave way to this like newfound, you know, viewpoint on myself and my place in this world and my decision making. So the activism definitely, the animal rights activism definitely got ramped up from there in that,
Right.
in those months to come following that decision to get sober.
Okay. Okay, cool. Now, um, essentially, like what you mentioned before, a little bit before, was kind of as you were kind of making these changes, and you were vegan, you didn't know a lot and you didn't have a lot of knowledge about animal rights and about all of these things, which a lot of vegans don't, you know. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
vegans are vegan for 2-3 years and still have no clue of what goes on with farming and things and that. So were there any resources or any things that you found? I know you mentioned a few things, but that really stuck out to you and that you would recommend others going to check out to try and educate themselves about these kind of things?
Yeah, I mean, for me, my big one, my holy grail of overall, like an information crossroads of wellness, it has been the Rich Roll podcast.
Okay.
That guy just has the greatest repertoire of guests and
Right.
human beings on this earth, really striving to either, you know, explore their own concept of the human experience, or how to try and help, you know, society as a whole optimize their, you know, our overall wellness and our happiness and our understanding of what we can do with our time here while we're having this like material experience. But it's so that one's huge because he's not only, I mean, he's an amazing animal rights advocate, upper echelon plant-based endurance athlete, just an overall legend himself, and like a testament to what the lifestyle can be. But he you know, he tends to have that common thread through a lot of his guests. So
Right.
I discovered, like James Aspie's been on his podcast, and like I've you know, Nimai Delgado, and a lot of people that you come across where you're like, oh well, you know, Dotsie Botch, you know,
Yeah.
Olympic medalist, you know, and
Yeah.
you start to see all these people like thriving, you know,
Right.
not only just like having that standpoint, like, oh yeah, like we shouldn't hurt others, so I don't, you know, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. But then to find out that, you know, you can summit Mount Everest in a pair of shorts with
Yeah.
no shirt on a vegetarian diet like Wim Hof, you know, and it's
Yeah.
like, okay, all right, well, there's more to
Yeah.
this going on, you know, and so that, and then I would follow all of those individuals as well, and they would have
Right.
their own platforms and their own nonprofit organizations, and the rabbit hole of the internet, you know, is really a spectacle of human creation, and that's a whole different podcast for sure.
Yeah.
But it's so yeah, following a lot of people coming off of that, but then just, you know, like I said, like, yeah, Earthling Ed and James Aspie, and then kind of just branching out into the spider web. And then oh, and actually I went to Farm Sanctuary.
Okay.
So there's a lot of animal sanctuaries here in the greater Los Angeles area. And my friend was like, oh, there's this place called Farm Sanctuary. And this was like kind of in the earlier stages too. This might have even been before I got sober. And I going there, and there was a great speaker and guide that we had, and they start off the tour with a kind of an overhaul of animal agriculture and what some of the animals we're going to be meeting had gone through. And so that really changed things for me a lot, in bringing the reality like right into my face,
Right.
and like, oh my gosh, these animals are so lucky, to not have met the fate that they were intended to by the hand of man. But so actually, finding a local animal sanctuary and just going and paying a visit, like they
Yeah.
love that, and I think, if the tour costs like 10, 15, $20, like that helps with, paying employees to maintain the facility, getting food for the animals and all that stuff. So it's a win-win, and you get a nice lesson. And then who doesn't love spending time with, animals?
Yeah.
And so going and doing that. And then also, I went and attended a local vigil,
Okay.
which is kind of the darker side of confronting the reality of animal agriculture.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people listening are familiar with what vigils are, but the way that they work, at least here in Los Angeles, is we go to the slaughterhouse where the animals are intended to arrive to. And when they show up in the trucks, we get a few brief moments with them to just be there, bear witness to their existence. We usually tend to give them some water. It's really hot here in Southern California. And a lot of the time, these animals have come from other states. They've been on the trucks for days, no food, no water. They're in these just like metal cages. And sometimes they show up, they're dead. The pigs will cannibalize each other. They'll chew each other's ears off and stuff. So it's really horrific. And they show up, you can see the fear in their eyes. You can feel it, you can smell it, you can taste it in the air. These slaughterhouses smell like the worst combination of funk you could possibly even imagine. And there really is a genuine like evil in the air. And it's but attending those early on in my veganism, just, not only did I get to meet amazing activists and really kind of like start to build a relationship with my local community, but it solidified my convictions in ways that you can only truly understand, when you go and look off the side of the ledge yourself, and see how, high the fall is.
Right.
People can tell you stories all day, but until you really touch the fire, you're not going to know how hot it really feels. And doing that just made me go like, no, okay, I need to like educate myself. And so that was where the internet and social media really came in. So I started looking into like Dr. Michael Greger, who wrote famously How Not to Die, and then just listening to him, watching a lot of his talks online and stuff like that, and Dr. Garth Davis, and there's so many resources out there where really, if you kind of stumble across one, chances are they're going to end up having a podcast or an interview with someone else, and then you go check them out, and then they're on this, and then, oh, that guy was on Rogan. Okay, you go, let's see what he's about. And then it's just, it's with infinite information at the click of a button, or now it's just, the swipe of a screen. It's pretty easy to get involved.
The internet makes it so easy. And I mean, like, even with this podcast, a lot of my guests are from via other guests, going on Instagram, scrolling through Instagram, and all of the suggestions and things like that. So it's so easy to find other people in your community, in the vegan community, this and that. So yeah, those are some pretty awesome tips there. But in your Instagram profile, I see that you're also a triathlete. Is that correct? Yeah. So do you mind maybe discussing how that came to be about and discussing that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, so after I got sober, and the wellness spiral really began to spin, I would go out and go for runs, I had this newfound energy. I was really stoked. I was eating, whole food, plant-based now. And just all like really starting to like whittle away at some of these like toxic behaviors I'd been, hanging on to for so long. I used to smoke a pack a day of cigarettes. So I quit smoking the same day I quit drinking. It was like, no, it all goes. I put all that stuff in the same box and just wrote, I don't do that on it, and stuffed it away in the old memory bank. And a lot, with animal products and stuff like that. And, so I started going out, going for runs. It was like 1 mile a day, 2 miles a day. And then about a month or two later, I ran into an old buddy of mine, and, we're chatting and stuff. And he's like, oh man, I just hit a month sober. And I was like, oh, what? No way. Me too. And like, so we were both all stoked on that. And he was like a track star in high school.
Okay.
And so he started running again naturally when he quit drinking, and was just, like kind of getting back into the swing of it. And so we would go run together. And then, a couple months go by, I had discovered this community called the November Project, which is this really, really cool free fitness group that is here in the States. And I believe it was started by a couple people that worked for the North Face, the hiking gear company. And this guy, Brogan Graham, him and maybe a few other heads. I'm not 100% sure on the genesis of it all, but there was this local meetup here in LA, and it was like every Wednesday morning at like 6 a.m. Like 50, 60 crazy people would get together and just do these workouts, and so I was going to that, which was super positive, really cool. And for somebody like me, I had never been an athlete in my life, ever. Like I skated and, like rode bikes and stuff, but I never played sports. Wasn't my thing. I never really had like, outside of playing guitar, like, a strong relationship with like mind and body reaction, and it just wasn't my thing. My thing. And I could show you how to like shotgun a beer in 5 seconds, but I definitely didn't know how to do any, I wasn't hitting like layups and jump shots at 15. So I was just starting to feel really interested in like pushing my body and stuff like that. And so I was running, and 2 miles turned to 3. And meeting with this group, we would do, track workouts and run the stairs and do all kinds of like really cool interval training and stuff like that. And one day my buddy calls me, the same guy who is sober and a runner. He's like, hey, I'm picking you up. We're going to do a 10K. And I was like, what? And he was just like, yeah, just don't worry. I got shorts for you and we're going. Yeah. So I met him in like Temescal Canyon in Malibu, or he got me and we went there. And it was like this event that was put on by Adidas, and it was called Run for the Oceans. And so it was like this thing where you logged on and got this app, and it monitored like every mile that everyone ran. And this was like the local event, but it was also like a thing that was going on virally for like 24 hours. Right. So every mile that everyone ran, they agreed to donate, match it $1 in donations to this company that specializes in pulling plastics out of the oceans. And so I was like, well, I can get behind that 100%. And it was this really cool course. And it was, there was like all these companies and ambassadors, and there was like a, big fancy starting line and a finisher tunnel and media. And like, there's a couple like celebrities and stuff, cruising around in their running shorts. And, and like, I was like, this is pretty wild, and I got a shirt and stuff, and I ran it, and, was actually, the whole time pretty much part of like the front pack. And, and that wasn't like any sort of like, window into, some like gift or a knack for the sport. Like it was just more of like a Sunday fun run, and because there were some real like real runners there, that I now know would have blown the doors off that run. But it was just, it was more of like a charity fun run kind of thing. But still, it was, so that was like the first sporting event I had ever really participated in outside of like sucking at baseball at like 9 and knowing I wasn't going to do it anymore. And so I was like, all right, well, that's it. I'm running a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm, scouring the internet and like looking for runs, and I have no idea what I'm doing or anything like that. And having been so plugged into like the plant-based community and stuff now, I had known, I know who Rich Roll is, who is a Ultraman triathlete.
Mm.
And I had come across a gentleman of the name John Joseph, and that guy is an Ironman finisher. I think he's a 13 or 14 time finisher now. And so I had heard about like this Ironman thing, but initially I'm like, that's absolutely not possible. Like,
Yeah.
that's just, it's like you swim how far, and then you ride
Yeah.
how far, and then you run a marathon. Like, you're absolutely out of your mind. Like, I don't even have a pull-up bar in my house. Like, I'm not doing that, but then in the same fashion of me just kind of being a bit of a radical human, like, I was like, actually, no, I'm going to do that. So instead of signing up for a marathon, I signed up for a half Ironman, like 3 months out.
Right.
And I trained myself just based on like YouTube knowledge or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The internet's powerful.
The social media, like Academy of Education and Research.
Yeah.
And so I once I graduated there, I went and showed up for my first half Ironman with a pair of running shoes that my buddy Jose loaned me, a wetsuit that I borrowed from my brother that was like a really thick winter suit with holes in it.
Yeah.
And then and my oldest brother's road bike, and went out and got it done. And that was it. For me, the emotional clarity that I received from the training and going out and running, and just like because also, I mean, I'm going through my first year of recovery from over a decade of alcoholism. And so my mind is just exploding with like thought and self-discovery. And so to be able to have this thing to like, okay, I'm gonna go spend 2 hours on my bike in my head, and come back home from that, and just the clarity that you get from those conversations with yourself, while you're also simultaneously choosing to like feel, large amounts of discomfort, is so healing and so self-revealing and educational to what you want and why you want, and all of the above. But so as soon as I finished the half Ironman, I was like, well, I'm doing a full one. So I signed up for a full, and then trained all winter into the next spring. And then I went and completed my first full Ironman in Colorado. And after that, I was like, okay, well, this is a thing. This is definitely, I'd realized, it's not just something for me that, like, I do it on my bad days.
Right.
And I know that I don't want to say I need it, but in a lot of ways it has become the thing, because the human is malleable, and I could put that time and that focus towards something else, and it's not a permanent structure in my lifestyle. But I have chosen, outside of my music and my usual therapeutic remedies for myself, it has become something that has been tried and true to really help me remain positive and focused and healthy and happy and sober. And so after having done the half and then doing the full, and realizing how much I had grown as a human with that thing being involved in my life over that last year, I was like, all right, well, let's see how far I can push this, like maybe I can someday, because it's a long game. Building up at like the aerobic capacity for the endurance game, really, especially if you're coming off of like, being a drunk drug addict that smokes cigarettes. It takes a while to like build up your lungs and build up your cardiovascular capabilities and all that stuff. So the following year, I got with a coach. I got signed up with a triathlon team, who I was going to be racing for, thinking that we were going into the 2020 race season, but but still with the overall mindset of like, okay, this is a thing that I'm definitely very into, and I don't want to dial back
Mm-hmm.
The throttle at all, I actually want to rev it up a little bit and put a little more into this.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, now leading up to today, I'm now, I got a couple sponsors and still have races on the calendar. I'm slated for Ironman Texas in the spring,
Okay.
and I actually this year, because of the fact that all the races went away, I curated my own Ironman here in Los Angeles, and with my company I race with, Vedge Nutrition, they helped me go out and get after it and get it done and actually document the whole thing, which was
Okay.
really cool. So I did get my Ironman in for the 2020 season. It was just a little bit of an unorthodox
Yeah.
situation there, but still, I, in my mind, whether the races go away, next spring or not,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna come at them like they're still here, and like they're gonna happen, because if they do, I definitely want to show up prepared.
Mm-hmm. Right. Cool. And one thing I want to maybe touch on that I really, really liked you brought about was you kind of doing these things and it kind of bringing self-discovery, clarity, kind of like reflection. So I think that's super important. I think the whole self-reflection, self-discovery is super important for everybody to do. Um,
Yeah.
how important is it for you currently? Do you still kind of use self-reflection in your daily life? Are there still kind of goals that you have that you want to achieve?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I am like a baby in this
Yeah.
world of overall wellness, and that the whole adventure of self-discovery. It's still, I mean, this is a long game. As long as I'm around, I'm interested in learning and growing and bettering myself, and tweaking my methodology and all that stuff. But I can't speak um, more loudly enough about the importance of making that connection with your physical body, because we're all here having a spiritual human experience behind these eyes, and our medium to the world, to the tangible world that engages with our senses and triggers thoughts in the brain, is this vessel, this human
Mm-hmm.
vessel. And if you don't regularly check in with that vessel and keep it sharp and keep it tuned and keep it engaged, your concept of what your human experience is will start to squander a little bit. And we can see that across the board in the lack of mental health in our society today. And because it's not just a physical health thing, like, oh, you need to do physical activity for physical health to keep your body fit. It's your mind is a product of the body in the way that it can receive signals from the known outside world. And having a strong relationship with your body, and that doesn't have to be crazy triathlon endeavors or several mile long ocean swims and stuff. It's as simple as getting 20 squats in, and maybe hanging from a pull-up bar for 30 seconds while your coffee's brewing, and just really building a relationship with, okay, my feet are connected to the ground and I'm standing above my legs, and my hands are here, and this is how my elbows feel. And
Mm-hmm.
when you have to carry your groceries back into your apartment from the car, it's not going to be this like shocker of like, oh, I'm using my body now. It's like, it's nice to wake up and get your vessel going,
Right.
maybe do a couple compound stretches and hit 5 push-ups before you hop in the shower. And it doesn't have to be this crazy investment to a gym or a personal trainer or some sort of thing. But the more we engage with our body and feel grounded in this connection to the world, the less stressors of the unknown will be floating around in our mind,
Yeah.
because of that anxiety that can be inflamed from not having that physical connection.
Right. Oh, cool. Yeah, those are super awesome points. And I Really liked all of that. Where can people find you? Is there any links that you want to plug in? Is there any links of any other people that you want to plug in that I can put in the show notes below?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm on Instagram and pretty much only Instagram. I don't
Yeah.
really mess with like too much social media. I know I'm definitely working on a YouTube channel right now, so
Mhm.
I can put out some more like contextualized content of some of these conversations that I like
Yeah.
to have. But yeah, right now, I mean, it's just at Alexander Buck with a V, BBCK. And that's where I'm at. If you want to talk to me, find me, see what I'm doing, what kind of stuff I'm putting in my
Yeah.
oatmeal, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to drop Vedge Nutrition.
Yep.
They're a newer company.
Okay.
They make an amazing product. They actually have rolled out a few products now. They have an
Mm.
amazing multivitamin, and like it's just no nonsense. It's like 4 macro, nutrients that you need in one pill.
Mm-hmm.
Super easy to remember to take. And also their protein powder is some of the like best mixing powder that
Right.
I've ever used. Minimal ingredients, certified organic, super, super good. I put a scoop of it in my oats. I'll put like a quarter scoop in my coffee,
Okay.
and then obviously the shakes are a
Yeah.
no brainer. So Vedge Nutrition, they're actually, they're running some specials right now for the holidays too, to get signed up with. So definitely gotta recommend them, because I know that as a plant-based person in general, and then also adding athletics on top of that, without wanting to just overdo the calories constantly, to like
Yeah.
meet the demand of the like less calorically dense plant foods that we're eating, like
Yeah.
adding a scoop of that into something a day, like you're going to be straight. For me, my body cannibalizes very easily.
Mm-hmm.
And especially add on all like the cardio stuff that I do. It's actually hard. It's really hard for me to maintain a nice weight. My body wants to drop.
Mm-hmm.
So having that involved is just takes a lot of like the worry or the stress, and I'm not having to do another brick of tempeh
Right.
like a day.
Yeah.
So it's easy on the bell, it's easy on the mind and the wallet. So definitely got to plug that. And then also, I mean, while I'm doing little shameless plugs,
Yeah.
my project Bad Jesus, we just released a track Friday the 27th
Oh, cool.
that just came out. So yeah, we've got some new music rolling out. It's called Cancel Us. We're the band is Bad Jesus, and we're on all platforms that stream music.
Okay.
So that song is actually getting a little more into some of the things I dove into in the beginning of, like, the self-reflection and the struggles of dealing with our perception of like the world outside of us and stuff. Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, we put this song out that's a bit of like a political dialogue towards my own reflections of some things that happened this year, a lot of the things that happened this year, and a little bit of like the social unrest and the pressures to kind of lean one way or another, or like how do you represent yourself and trying to remain compassionate and empathetic and vocal without stepping on the like endless row of toes that seems to be before us. And like trying to walk the tightrope of living my life and enjoying my time through this chaos, and then also trying to remain teachable and open-minded and present and empathetic and compassionate in like such a chaotic time in the world that we're we're living in.
Yeah.
So yeah, that song came out just the other day on the 27th, and I'm super proud of it. And so if anyone likes the things that I have to say or whatever, like, and they want to know a little bit more about me intimately, my
Mm-hmm.
music is really my journal, and I
Right.
share it with people. So yeah, Bad Jesus on any platform, and we've got a decent little catalog going on there for the last
Awesome.
year.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Well, I thank you so much for being on the podcast and for sharing your story with us. It was super awesome. And I hope actually that people are enlightened and people get inspired and have learned something from the episode today. So thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's honestly, it's my pleasure, and I want to
Mm-hmm.
thank you for even giving me this opportunity to come on and speak my nonsense. You know, so I'm definitely wildly grateful for the opportunity.
All right, everyone. That is it for today's episode. And I hope you all liked it. I just literally finished re listening to it because, of course, I need to edit it before I uploaded it. And I am recording this outro right after I listen to it. And when you're in a conversation or when you're listening to a conversation during a podcast, I think sometimes you don't fully digest what's going on. And I there was so much in this episode, so many amazing things, and so many things that I wish I had asked and elaborated on in my questioning and things like that. But to be honest, I just wanted to let Alex do his thing, vibe out, and kind of share his story. Y'all know me, I can talk and talk and talk. So I just wanted to kind of shut my mouth during this episode and just let Alex share his story, which was so amazing and so awesome. And yeah, just listening to this episode again, I'm so excited for you all to hear it, and I'm so excited that it's out there now. There were some amazing things in here, and I definitely hope that you all liked it. So definitely go ahead and check out all of the links that Alex mentioned below. They will be in the show notes. And that's really all I have for today. I do want to mention next week's episode is just going to be yours truly. So if you want to skip an episode, I mean, sure, you can skip my episode. It's going to be my very first solo episode. I'm essentially just going to share my story and kind of wrap up this whole plant-based series with sharing how I made the switch to being plant-based, my journey with it, how I feel like I've done a pretty decent job being plant-based and being vegan all of these years now. So yeah, that will be next week's episode, and then we will get back into the amazing guests. But don't worry, there will every now and then be more plant-based and vegan guests. I'm just not going to be doing like episode after episode. I have a whole bunch of guests lined up for the next month of December, and we are not going to necessarily just be covering plant-based topics. So yeah, that is to come in December, but nothing else for me. So I will talk to you all next week.